Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the June 14th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Props to those of you who are on your lunch break right now, because it's noon Eastern Standard Time on June 14th here in Philadelphia. Hopefully, I do get some listeners outside of of the locale of Philadelphia. Maybe get some Midwest, some West Coast folk who might be listening. What is it in the West Coast? Is it 4 hours or 3 hours behind? I'm not quite sure. I think it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So salute to you if you are watching on the West Coast. Definitely appreciate you. Shouts to those of you who are watching on YouTube. As always, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, again, I'm going to let you chill on Facebook just for today. Maybe for this week, because I'm going to do this again on Friday at noon. So I'm going to give you this week before I'm going to ask you to go over. I'm going to forcefully ask you to please go over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button and watch the better viewing experience there. And last but certainly not least, shout to those of you, all one of you who are watching on Instagram right now. Hopefully you got the hint because I pinned the comment and saying, yo, go over to YouTube and watch. And if you do that, I'm not going to say I got a prize for you, but what I will say is much obliged, right? You know, I ain't trying to monetize. I'm lying. I ain't going to even speak that into existence. The world know I'm trying to get at this paper. I'm trying to get at this chicken. I'm trying to get at this money. That's not the only reason why I do it, but hey, why not? I see what a lot of content other folk are putting out here. Hence the reason why I came back is just like, hey, if they can do it, so can I. But I definitely appreciate everybody who's tuned in, and definitely shouts to those of you who are listening on streaming services. I know it's like a zillion of them at this point. What is it? You got the Spotify's, you got the Apple Music. I don't think Google has anything anymore. I think it's is it Amazon Music? I don't know. It's just so much happening. YouTube Music. It's just a whole lot of y'all. So wherever you're listening, I definitely salute you. I definitely appreciate you. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to have this conversation today on several things. And the first topic, and if you're watching live on YouTube, you'll see the title of this episode is What's Beef? Because I'm not sure what's been happening in society recently, but it's a lot of beefs going on, right? And you know I'm an adult, so I'm not going to say the P word. I ain't Cameron. I ain't Mace. We not going to say no H. We not doing none of that. We just going to say what's beef, and we going to let that ride. So, but it just seems like it's a lot of beef. It's a lot of static that is taking place here in America, here in Philadelphia. It's just a lot of conflict. And when I sit and reflect on it, I think we're in a state of mistrust of one another. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about a situation, a news story that had taken place, and the host was giving his perspective on this idea of trust and how there's such a lack of trust amongst us. And the exemplars that were used were, you didn't even have to go as far back as COVID and this general mistrust for so many Americans and so many people around the world when it came to the vaccine. But it just goes to this wildfire and the smoke that came from the Canadian wildfire, where folk is just like, yeah, I smell it, but I don't know. It might be something in the atmosphere. They done put something, it might be Agent Orange, and we're going to get into the real Agent Orange shortly. But it might be something, but I don't think it's just no wildfire. And it's just like, fam, you ever burn wood, right? You ever smell anything burning? That's exactly what it smelled like. But we just don't trust. We definitely don't trust the government. We don't, and understandably so. We don't trust news people who offer the news. Understandably so. But we don't trust each other. Right? We don't trust one another. I have no idea who my neighbors are. I trust one of them, and I just trust her solely because she's what? She's black. That's literally no. Shout out to Miss Anita, who actually might be tuning in at some point. No, I trust her because we've been neighbors now for the last 13 years. But outside of that, I don't necessarily trust my neighbors. And why don't I trust my neighbors? Because I don't know my neighbors. We don't know each other. And where we are today, we just go out, we do our job, and we leave, and we go back home. We stay in our individual silos until something happens that challenges the collective. And what happens? No, we don't necessarily come together. That's not what happened. I mean, George Floyd aside, but we see 3 years post George Floyd where we are as quote unquote community now, right? Because there is none. There is no sense of community in 2023. It's who do I know? Who have I been around? Those are the only people that I can trust. Those are the only people that I can build with. And I'm not sure what good that does if we're trying to, and again, there's no we in America, right? But if we are, and I did air quotes for those who are listening on streaming services, if we desire to get to a specific place where we are more amicable with one another. And so I have no idea where I was going with that idea of community. But it's just a lack of trust. Oh, back to beef, right? Because I'll be doing that sometimes. Sometimes I'll be going off on tangents, and then it's just like, yo, where did I start? But it started with just this idea of what's taking place in society and why we don't necessarily trust each other. And so speaking of trust, whatever trust that you had for your former president, not mine, 45, also known as Donald Trump, you shouldn't have never had none anyway, if you know his whole get down. But there are folk who are like, oh my gosh, this is so bad for America. The former president has been indicted. 37 felonies. What are the other countries are going to think? What are they going to think about us? And my take is, after I got finished laughing for seeing what he was indicted for, was, well, I feel like other countries have been laughing at us, again, quote, air quotes, us, for a very long time. If it wasn't about Bill Clinton getting a little bit of special attention in the Oval Office and then saying, yo, I ain't that, hey, and then it come out that it really did go down, or if it isn't stumbling and bumbling over his words, George Bush, these weapons of mass destruction that I still haven't seen. Optically speaking, other countries, they've never, if we're real, they've never looked at us as this place of this amazing democracy. It was just like, yo, all right, we know y'all got a little bit of power. We're gonna rock with y'all. We're gonna play the game a little bit. But we don't respect you. We just going along to get along until we can build ourselves up as independent nations or coming together as collective nations. Till we can be like, yo, we see them. Yeah, we ain't rocking with them, but we don't need you. And so that's where so many are. Or if they didn't know, or if they did had some modicum of respect, they saw the fact that the guy who's on their television screen who said you're fired was elected president of the United States. So I'm not sure what evidence other nations would need for them to lose respect. But let's say we go along with this idea that they lost respect. You think folk really care about this? In all honesty. Right now, I know there's a certain segment of America that cares. They feel like President, your former President Trump is being railroaded. Oh my gosh, it's just some documents. They're trying to attack a great man. And we'll get into some of the comments that his supporters made after he was arraigned. And so unless you've been under a rock, which hopefully you have to ignore this story, because again, for most of America, we don't care. And I can say for me, I do not care. Whether Bull get arrested, whether he doesn't get arrested. My get down, and I think it's important to let you know my position. I never act as an agent of the state where I'm advocating for anybody to go to jail. There's no special circumstance where for me, what will ever have me say so-and-so needs to go to jail. You may hear me say there needs to be some type of accountability. And you're like, Phil, well, what about murder? There needs to be some type of accountability. But what you will not hear You will not hear me say so-and-so needs to be put on trial. They need to go to jail. That's just not my makeup, right? That's just not how I operate. And so you won't see that change, even if I don't like the man. I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a proponent of his. But you'll never hear me advocate on behalf of any system, especially one that disproportionately impacts black and brown folk, to say, oh, just because this is a white man with power, he needs to go be put in jail. It's not my get down. But yes, he was arrested. He was arraigned. Now, he wasn't fingerprinted, which is interesting. Or from what I saw, the news outlet that I saw, that he wasn't fingerprinted, but his Cody, which is his co-defendant, was. Or maybe it was his mugshot. One of the two, right? But he was arraigned yesterday. He's accused of breaking 7 laws and charged with 37 felony counts, each related to his retention of hundreds of classified government documents, according to an indictment unsealed Friday, and this is via NBC News. And when I heard it, I was just like, we talking about paperwork? And so I was on radio here in Philly, and when we were talking about it, because it was pending, it was like, okay, next week, Trump is going to be arraigned. And I made light of the situation. I said, we sitting here, we it's not Allen Iverson, but we sitting here, we talking about paperwork? Listen, when I left the city of Philadelphia, I took some paperwork home with me. Now, I don't want it to be like, yes, I took case files home. No. I literally took like paper. I think the statute of limitations of taking paper and taking paper clips and all that jazz, I think that has since passed. As I sit and navigate this trash truck. So if you hear the trash truck in the background, say what's up to those good people, man, because they and you need to salute and support your sanitation workers, because they do a undoable job for so many of us. So salute to them. So if you hear that, that's what it is. But when we talk about when I hear about this paperwork, I got the jokes off. Like that, like everybody be taking paperwork home, right? That doesn't minimize the seriousness of it, and I recognize the seriousness of it for so many, especially those within the political sphere. Now, my question would be, how does this impact the layperson? Are we going to see an increase in taxes? I mean, we're going to see that anyway. Is the quality of life of black and brown folk going to change? No, it's not. There was an argument made that, well, you know what, again, optically speaking, people need to see that we're going to hold people accountable here in America. And it's just like, word? Is that really to get down here in America? Do we really hold people accountable? Because there's a lot of people who we need to be holding accountable. Again, you ain't going to hear me say go to jail. Whew, that's loud. Give me a second. Let me put these headphones in. And so there's a long list of people who need to be held accountable. You dig me? But okay, cool. If that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to operate, if those are your feelings with regards to why Trump needs to be arrested, okay, cool. For me, it's not going to change the situation, because if it's not Trump in office, then it's going to be a Tim Scott. It's going to be a Ron DeSantis. It's going to be a Nikki Haley, who do not mean black and brown people specifically, or poor people, right? But we know how poor white folk, we know what they get down. They allow that idea of whiteness to supersede whatever their conditions are, because whiteness is supreme. No pun intended. Is that a pun? Because I don't think I said white supremacy, but whiteness supreme. Y'all get what I'm saying. Y'all get my get down. That's not going to change the landscape of what's happening in here in the United States. The land of the free, the home of the brave. It's not going to change the conditions. And so hence the reason why I do look at it, and I can look at it with humor. Now, if I was a supporter of his, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I look at this man of God, because that's what some folk were calling him upon his release yesterday when he went into this cafe and he said, listen, I'm going to pay for everybody's meal. It's on me. You think he paid for it? Let's keep it a B. Let's keep it 100. You think Trump paid everybody's meal? No. Not at all. But they still rang out with the God bless Donald Trump. They look at him as a martyr. He's dying for somebody's sins. And it's his birthday today. Right? And he was just like, such an amazing birthday gift. Just like, why would they do this to this man? But again, if you recognize the track history of Donald Trump, who always thought he could usurp rules and regulations, whether as a businessman, whether as a politician, this is just par for the course. This is dating back to his dad in the 60s and 70s and the discrimination lawsuits. This goes into the 80s and 90s. We've seen how long it took to get his tax returns. This man played a game. He is America. He's America. If you want to see what the American dream is, it's a white man with no skills except to manipulate, which it is a skill. I'm a social worker, so I got to look from a strengths-based perspective. But no real skills. Who gets elevated to a position, to many positions, where he's acquiring wealth, he's acquiring property, where he can be the United States of America. He can be the president of the United States of America. And so he is the American dream. The American dream is for white folk. The American dream is for white men. The American dream is for cis hetero white men. That's the American dream. Those are the ones who can attain it. Nobody else will ever get close. And so when we look at what he actually did, and again, this shows where he thought and continues to think, and rightfully so, because if I've been living one way for 40, for 50, for 60, for 70 years of my life, and I've been getting away with SHIT, I forgot, this is a podcast, so I can say shit. If he was getting away with shit for 70 years, as soon as he came out the womb, he saw his daddy do it. Why wouldn't he think he could get away with this? In these documents, having them in the bathroom. Having the documents in the bathroom. Ain't that some nasty shit? That's why I don't touch anybody's phone. There's a Seinfeld episode where George goes into a bookstore. He has to take a number 2. He takes the book into the bathroom with him to take a number 2. He comes out, tries to put the book back. They said, no. You got to take that with you, fam. That's flagged. For sanitary reasons, rather, we know the type of fecal matter and all that stuff that permeates the air within the bathroom. So that's why I'm not touching nobody's phone. Probably shouldn't be touching my own phone, because we're not cleaning our phones like that. You get what I'm saying? And so he got these boxes of documents in the bathroom just chilling by the stall. And what happens, they try to take the documents back. And not necessarily those documents, but they just took them to, I forget the location where, but they, in essence, they tried to give them back. And some of them weren't classified. And what was noticed was like, hey, these are classified documents. Why do you still have these? And they did an investigation. And ultimately, this is a result of the investigation, him being arraigned. This is part of it, right? Now, part of it is, who was he showing these classified materials to? Think about it. You have a house party. Think about House Party. Let's go to the movie House Party as an example. Perfect example. Let's go to house party. You remember when he went into the bathroom and they was somebody had a log in the toilet. They was trying to blame kid. So you got all these people in the bathroom trying to get they wig right, trying to get they boxes right. Now picture a whole bunch of classified documents like being in that corner. So he having all these house parties. Thousands of people probably have been in his crib. And they just sitting there. Problematic. Then you take the document and you have a writer who's at your crib, and the writer hasn't been named. And he's like, yo, look at this, yo. Wait, you know what? I should have declassified these. Because he had an opportunity to declassify the documents as the president of the United States before he left office. And that would literally make a lot of this null and void. But again, because I am Donald Trump, because I am a white man in America, I ain't necessarily gotta play by these rules. I don't have to go through the formal process of declassifying this. Because if you want to declassify it, and again, I'm not privy on what exactly the process is. But I'm sure they have to vet it. Okay, let's see. Let's analyze what these documents are. What can we declassify? What can't we declassify? And they be like, all right, here, these are the declassified ones. They might be all of them. Take them all with you, fam. You keep those. We gonna keep the ones that we still need here. He didn't even go through that process. The formal process. He just took him to the crib. Had him there. Outside of his presidency, his term as president. And so he's sitting there talking to this writer like, yo, check this out. So yeah, I know I ain't declassified. I should have did when I was president, but hey, who gives a... You see this? Ain't this crazy? Talking to the writer like, yo, look at this. That's crazy, ain't it? Like, the whole idea is just wild. The whole idea of it is wild. And so subsequently, he was arraigned. This will be one of many trials that he'll be on. And you know what he says? Yo, they trying to get me, man. They just don't want me to run for president. And he still could run for president. Because there's nothing on the books that says you can't be under investigation. You can't have a criminal record. It's nothing that says any of that. It says what? You have to be a natural citizen of the United States. You have to be over the age of 35. And I believe you have to have lived in America for 15 years or something like that. That's it. And people are making this argument like, oh, he shouldn't be able to run for president. Why not? Why not? Out of all the trash candidates that existed on both sides, this is what we're going to say. Hey, everybody run for president. Why not? Because that's what it is. Well, it's not everybody run for president. Let's be clear. You have to be elite. You have to be wealthy to run for president. Everybody can't do it. No, everybody cannot be president of the United States of America. I know, unpopular opinion, because we saw Barack Obama. You think he not an elite Negro? You think he came from Philadelphia public schools? Because we know if he came from Philadelphia public schools, it's a high likelihood that he would either drop out. He can't read. And it's not to cast aspersions on the children who go to school in the Philadelphia school system, or those teachers who care, and those administrators who care. I know quite a few of them. But it's a high likelihood that he's not making it out of Philadelphia to ever make it to a Harvard. And you know, I don't give two SHITs. Again, this is a podcast. Two shits about Harvard. Because we elevate these white institutions. We keep this white standard alive. We perpetuate it. And when I say we as black and brown folk. Now, I know it's a young sister here in Philadelphia. She's going to Harvard next year. Salute to her if she likes it. Cool. If she that's what she wants to do, cool. My question is always, when you go into these white institutions as non-white people, what do you have to sacrifice in order to get there? Because you got to sacrifice something. And if we look at Harvard specifically, they arrested the esteemed Henry Louis Gates, who white people love. Right? He's like Wayne Brady. He's like Brian Gumble. White people love Henry Louis Gates. They arrested him at his front door at Harvard. And so here we taking this young black girl from North Philly and we going up there and saying, go ahead, go fend for yourself against this white infrastructure. I don't want it for me and mine. And you're talking about somebody who went to 4 predominantly white institutions. It wasn't until the third degree that I was like, yo, F y'all, man. I listen, I don't care nothing about this institution. Let me get this union card as the good brother Dr. Ramsey has told me. Phil, get your union card and you good. And so this doctorate, it's a union card. That's all it is. But I'm not invested in these white institutions. I'm not sold by their DEI efforts. Because that already tells me there's a problem here. If you need checks and balances to make sure y'all not going to be in your racist bag, if we got to make sure we have a specific, some specific things in place, a specific office in place to make sure we don't act like how we've historically acted. What are we talking about here? It's just like, oh my gosh, we're lauding these people for DEI. And trust me, I know several black folk who are in these DEI offices. Opportunity for them, I guess. No shade. But what is it really saying? If we got to put this in place to make sure that these white folk don't act like how white folk have been acting since the beginning of white folk. But I digress, because I ain't got much time left. I ain't going to talk y'all heads off. But yeah, they got your mans. They got your mans. It's, what I will say is it's theater. It's comedy. It's drama. It's lucrative. I was looking up yesterday, back in 2016, CNN made $100 million extra dollars from digital revenue when covering that election, solely based off this bull. Solely based on him. Journalists are loving it right now. I bet you, the sports season is pretty much over. Ain't nobody watching baseball. The NBA finals have ended. It's nothing to talk about. Ask anybody in sports media. This is the worst time. As a sports fan, you know this is the worst time. This is where you might reemerge, start talking to your family again. You might start paying more attention to your kids. Right? But this is theater. And I'm sure sports folk, if they could talk about Trump in some capacity, they would. Because it's something to talk about. And so, yeah, he brings it all. He literally brings it all. I don't know if he's a polarizing figure. If not, he's just America. He is America. And so with that said, I don't even know how much time I done spent talking about this bull. It gave me what? He gave me a strong 30 minutes talking about this man. I would never talk about him like that ever in my life. Word. So as we keep the party going, right, and under this theme of beef and what's beef, Shannon Sharpe has left Fox Sports 1. So if you're not familiar with Shannon Sharpe, he's done a show with Skip Bayless for, I want to say, at least the last 7 years, if not longer. Skip Bayless, one of the most hated people in sports talk. But again, no different than Trump, he know how to garner an audience. He taught Stephen A. Smith how to engage an audience. Because folk will literally sit there for 2.5 hours and listen to these people literally say nothing a lot of times. A lot of surface analysis when it comes to sports. And so Shannon Sharpe, he reached a buyout with Fox Sports 1 a few weeks ago. And he did his goodbye episode yesterday on June 13th. And Shannon cried. I love you, Skip. Well, I don't necessarily know if he said I love you, but he cried. He thanked Skip. And for me, it was just like, again, who cares? I don't necessarily care, because when I watch those shows, it's specifically that, I'm not going to say specifically that show, because I have issue with Stephen A. Smith as well. And again, when you understand the lens that I operate from, this idea of black liberation and community, and I see a Shannon Sharpe. Well, I let's first start with Skip, because I want to have a longer conversation about Shannon Sharpe. When I see a Stephen A. Smith talking about get off the weed, man, talking about black and brown folk, when he consistently throws brothers under the bus, and it's not even a matter of disagreeing or saying, hey, you're not making the healthiest decisions. It's the lengths that you go to when you're having these conversations, because it rings eerily similar to how we hear white folk talk about us. So when we think about Kyrie Irving and just the language, again, you know, with me, language is so critical. How we talk about something matters. And so, yes, Kyrie Irving has some blind spots. In my opinion, he was literally, he's a young man. He's still young, attempting to figure out who he is as a black man, because we know who he's been as a basketball player, and that's how he's always been perceived in America as this basketball player. That's why it's easy for them to tell black basketball players to shut up and dribble. And a lot of them have internalized this from early on. I ain't going to even talk about Baby Gronk. I don't even know what Baby Gronk looked like, if he's a white kid or a black kid, but it's problematic. But I ain't going to talk about that right now. But Kyrie has always identified as being a basketball player, because that's what he did well. So you over-identify with this role. And so instead of and again, I'm not saying that Stephen A. Smith isn't intelligent, but the types of conversations that he has around black men, it makes you question. Why is he doing this? Especially when he doesn't keep that same energy. When Dana White, president of the UFC, hits his wife and comes out, and I don't want to say like literally like punches her, and comes out and says, you know, I've known Dana for a while. He's a good dude. He made a mistake. But when somebody was smoking weed, you talking about stay off the weed. I forgot the hip hop philosopher that said, if it ain't adding up, then it's subtracting. That would be Jeezy. But it ain't adding up. And so when we go to Shannon Sharpe, I'm not going to say his get down was similar to Stephen A. Smith's. And I understand that he's supposed to be Uncle Shannon, the country. And so he comes out with the Hennessy. He fulfills all the stereotypes, the Hennessy, the Black and Mild cigars, the stocking cap on. Again, playing that role to a T. And you might be like, Phil, but I thought you said it's about governance. It's about how we view one another. It is. right? It's not about what the social structure and what white folk and how they perceive us, because we need to be authentically ourselves. But we also have to be mindful not to participate in this minstrel show that so often I saw Shannon participate in. Now, again, salute. Shannon went from being, he was on CBS. He may still be on Showtime's NFL show. But the thing with Shannon was he can't talk. He doesn't talk well. Because, that's the thing they say about black folk. And so that's why so many of us push back, like, you speak so well. Speak so well compared to who? And so I understand exactly everything that Shannon was saying. And I think he was definitely good at his job. Making nothing out of nothing. That's really what it was. For multiple hours per day. And again, I salute, because that's not easy. I'm 36 minutes into this live podcast, streaming on YouTube and all your streaming platforms. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And I'm winded, so I can only imagine 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, what that meant. But nonetheless, Shannon is leaving Fox Sports 1. And we talk about this idea of beef. A lot of people think the beef really reached a tipping point between him and Skip Bayless back in January when Damar Hamlin died. When Damar Hamlin died. It's important for me to say Damar Hamlin died, because they'll say he had cardiac arrest. And Damar Hamlin plays for the Buffalo Bills. It was a football game towards the end of the season. And he died on the football field. He had to be brought back to life with CPR. Quick note, unfortunately, and yes, I say unfortunately, Damar Hamlin is back playing football. So who stops him from himself? Even if he is medically cleared. But when Damar Hamlin died, Skip Bayless tweeted out, it was a Monday Night Football game. As I'm not sure what's ringing. I'm hearing some ringing in my ear. So let me take this out quite quick. So, Skip Bayless tweeted out that the NFL pretty much had to go on business as usual, right? I wonder if this going to stop end the football game, because there are playoff implications related to this game. He said the quiet part out loud. Was Skip Bayless wrong for saying that? I don't think so. I don't think Skip Bayless was wrong, because again, at the end of the day, this is about capitalism, baby. This is about making a buck. This is about making $1. Yeah, somebody died on the field. It's unfortunate. But we got to keep the party going. And of course, the NFL will come out and say, no, we had no intentions of stopping this game. Well, why did it take so long for y'all to call the game? Right? And so, was it insensitive? Yes, it's insensitive, but sometimes the truth hurts. And Shannon Sharpe, he saw the tweet. He boycotted the show the next day, and then he came back and he had words with Skip. He had beef with Skip. He wanted Skip to take it down, take the tweet down, and apologize. And Skip said, "No, I'm cool," as he should, because again, what he said wasn't wrong. You think Damar Hamlin is the first person? Maybe he might be. I'm not going to say he was the first person to die on the football field, right? Because I don't have that information. But we've seen people paralyzed on the football field in the NFL. And what they say in Titanic, and Steve Harvey said, and the band kept playing as the ship went down. And what Steve say, if it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, we taking them cords out that amp, we getting out of here. But that's not how the NFL is. The ship could be sinking, and they still gonna get that bread. And so allegedly that was the tipping point for that relationship. And so now here we have Shannon Sharpe, this free agent. Again, he gonna be fine. He a millionaire in America with popularity and notoriety. So he gonna be all right. So I ain't shedding a tear for Shannon. Now maybe the anti-black individual Skip Bayless, because he is definitely anti-black, and a lot of his sentiments too. Maybe he'll go off into the Caucasian sunset. But yeah, I ain't shedding no tear. I ain't shedding no tear at all. And before I get out of here, I want to talk about, and I want to say it hurts my heart. And salute to those of you who are watching on Instagram. Again, head on over to @Phillip Roundtree and on YouTube and subscribe. It looks so much better over there. Anita Baker, the Queen Mother. Now, I know I said I had some beef with Queen Anita. And I did. And I talked about it on Monday. I got my refund, though. I still probably won't listen to Anita Baker the same ever again. But she tripping. She tripping. And at this point, and I wanted to bring up this because I'm not one about conflict between black folk. That's not, I'm not here for that salacious type of news. But Anita Baker versus Babyface, she gonna kick Babyface off the tour? And so I don't know if I'm trying to hold back a tear, if I'm trying to hold back a laugh. But she went wild on Twitter. The Twitter fingers were going crazy. And I don't know if it's Anita. I don't know if it's Anita's assistant, intern, or what. But beginning a few days ago, like right after the last episode, Anita started going wild on Twitter. So I'm gonna give you just a little bit of what happened, right? And so Anita, I guess fans of Babyface, they were adding Anita Baker on Twitter just about what the tour and yada, yada, yada. And what she said was, and I quote, "Dearest one, you are not privy to the contracts. Yes, Babyface is a special guest / support act on my tour. This false narrative of a co-headliner is creating unrealistic expectations and aggression from his fans towards me. He should tell you guys the truth." That's safe. That's cool. I ain't got no issue with that. Again, when I asked for my refund from the Prudential Center, who subsequently got it from Live Nation, all $450 of it, it was me recognizing that, yeah, I might not have, whether I saw Babyface or not that day, it really didn't matter because the headliner whose tour it was Anita Baker. And the fact that she came out and she still sang 3 hours later, I might not get my money back because that's just how the game works. It's a nasty game, but that's how the game works. And so she started going on and she kept tweeting. There's a white man behind these grown black men harassing me and gaslighting my fans because he can't take over this tour, so he wants to destroy it. Kenny's crazy narcissist Babyface, call off your boys. And she went on again. Kenny's crazies are online bullies. Babyface, please call off your fans. I have been only kind and supportive of you as the special guest support on my tour. And it was like, we just all watching this unfold. But again, when we talk about, and I'm not going to pathologize her and say that something is taking place with her. Again, this could just be diva behavior. I want to stop short of calling it erratic behavior. But it's just like, OG, you an OG. Why you out here in these streets like you just normal, like the rest of these folk? Like you user 7432 trolling. Like that's not you. You Anita Baker. Come on, OG. Nah, it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart. And so I wasn't even going to talk about this today. But then I woke up and I saw Anita tweet. I'm sorry. I'm laughing / crying. After silently enduring cyberbullying, verbal abuse, and threats of violence from the fan base of our special guest support act, right? She ain't even call the boy name. She ain't even say his name. She ain't even say his name. In the interest of personal safety, I will continue the Songstress tour alone. Appropriate refunds will be made. Blessings. And the reason why now, when I think about that this might actually be Anita, it has everything to do with the typing of the tweet. So after silently, like every word in this tweet was capitalized. And that's something only an elder would do. Only an elder who's not familiar with how Twitter gets down or social media gets down, well, they capitalize every word. No shade to my mother's on she's not on Twitter, but she on Facebook. She don't post much. She just monitors me. That's another thing that elders do. She just monitors me. Right? But so yeah, I'm looking at it now like this probably was Anita. Matter of fact, let me look right quick to see if the other ones follow that same pattern. Yeah, this might be Anita. I think it's Anita. But subsequently, Babyface is no longer on the tour. Babyface put out a statement saying, I am saddened by the news that Anita Baker has decided to remove me from the Songstress tour. It's unfortunate and disheartening to see how things have played out via social media. While I was looking forward to the rest of the dates, I have nothing but love and respect for Anita, and I wish her the best for the remainder of the tour. Babyface. That is some PR. That is some publicist gold right there. That's publicist gold. That's gold. That's how you write it. Lending more credence to the fact that that probably was Anita who was tweeting from the hip like she Meek Mill. Child. That's all I got. Woo child, the ghetto. But listen, that is all for today. I will be back Friday around noonish to wrap with y'all. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you are viewing this. Until next time, peace.